Perfect. Adam, if you don't mind hitting that record button. Oh, took the words right out of my mouth. Got it. Perfect. So gentlemen, I really appreciate across the board everyone being on this phone call. I know there's a lot to talk about, but what I would like to do first and more importantly is kind of go around. I know I'm not sure if you guys are sitting next to each other, kind of understand your guys' roles, and then maybe we can go from there, opening to why you guys are looking to switch over to StealthBits, from StealthBits to Netwrix.
Okay, yeah, so let me jump in first. I'm Marvin Sanderford. I'm the Director of IT and Services here. And I work very closely with Don's team, of which Hassan is one, and I work very closely with Justin, who's our Director of Enterprise Architecture or Enterprise Solutions here at NERC, and then of course Jeff Hicks, who can't join, the Director of Infrastructure. And, again, as you can imagine, us as a regulator, we sit between the public utility companies and the government. And, we're the ones who create standards and things of that nature that the utility companies use to say that they're secure and protected and all that good stuff. And so that's really, one of the reasons why we went down the path we did with StealthBits. And again, great tool, a little difficult to use. And Hassan, was, studious enough to go out and look for other tools that may be a better fit, may provide, better functionality, ease of use, et cetera. And, the little bit of interaction that I've had with Hassan in looking at the tool looks like it can do some really nice things that would help us out tremendously. And from our vantage point, being able to know who has access to what files, rights, permissions, all that good stuff, that's absolutely critical to what we do, because security is at the forefront of, just absolutely everything we do here starts with security. So, it's a little bit of a spiel about why we're looking at the product. And again, nothing negative to say about StealthBits at all, just a fairly complex product, but again, good tool, and we're hoping your tool is, as good or certainly easier to use. Let's put it that way.
I have not played with StealthBits, but I have heard from a lot of people it definitely is a lot easier. So we'll definitely show you that, and absolutely, definitely all the points that you've hit, we can definitely hit and some. That's definitely a good overview for sure.
Okay, well, Justin, Hassan, you guys want to introduce yourself as well?
Go ahead, Justin. Yeah, sure. As Marvin mentioned, I'm Justin Loftus. Doing the enterprise architecture role here at NERC, and so responsible for application services, things like that. So I'm just going to be a secondary on this one, just kind of interested in what the technology is going to look like in the landscape, and then trying to support wherever I can. And then just a quick note, I'm going to have to drop off at 2:30, so let you know.
Hi, this is Hassan Zulfikar. I'm the Principal Cybersecurity Analyst, and I'm working directly with Don Prince and Marvin and Justin for a auditing tool that will serve our purpose for what we're looking for. And we're looking forward to look at the features of Netwrix and see how it's different than other products. So it's all yours.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, great. Well, what I like to do, and you guys, I really appreciate this overview. I'm actually going to hand it off to my boss, Jim, let him speak a little bit. Then we're going to kick it over to Adam, who's my sales engineer, him and I have been working for 6 years together. So he is going to show you everything under the sun with our product. And that's just the way the layout's going to be. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to answer or to ask at any point in time. But again, I'm going to leave the floor to Jim, and then we'll go down. Jim?
Yep. Hey, guys. Welcome. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. First of all, love Buckhead. Used to work for a famous guy in Atlanta called Fran Tarkenton, who had an office in Buckhead. So I was there. It was my home away from home in the past. So know it well, experienced your traffic, and it's not as bad as California, but it's bad. And, we're very familiar with your organization. Obviously, from a regulatory compliance, we actually adhere to your NERC standards. So many of the utility companies that we deal with around the world obviously adhere to those standards, and we do support that from a regulatory compliance. I want to talk a little bit about us and StealthBits, and I agree with you that StealthBits is a good tool, like some of the other big or more complex tools that are out there. The problem is they're very complex. They do a lot, but they also require an army of people to maintain, to deploy. You've got a combination of things. So within StealthBits, depending upon whether you want to do activity monitoring or you just want to do state and time auditing, you have to have two different tools. One is agentless, one isn't. If you want to do rollback, you have to have their rollback tool, which is Stealth Recover. If you want to do user behavior analysis, you have to have Stealth Defend, which is a good tool, but again, yet it's another tool that needs to be deployed and maintained. And then their discovery and classification solution is a pretty good solution. It's not a bad solution. It covers very similar things to what we do. But Adam, could you just give me just a quick, allow me to view my screen? I just want to walk these guys through just a couple of quick slides.
Of course. I assume you're the Netwrix webinar host.
That's me. That's me. I use it so often. That's how it does it. Right.
Well, it had me at Deb yesterday, so you're in good shape.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to snapshot a couple of things, just to kind of walk you through who we are, what we do, where we've come from, and then we'll get into the demo. So as a company, we've been around. This is going to be our 12th year anniversary here coming up. Actually going on the 13th in July. We started off in the early days as kind of a point tool focusing on different types of utilities that we could provide to system admins for doing things like change reporting on AD, GPO, file shares, all those kinds of things. And obviously had some success in the early days with that, but have evolved into an actual platform where we support, roughly most of the Microsoft stack, VMware, Oracle, a variety of different applications. We've just introduced Nutanix, if you're familiar with hyperconverged storage, for file share auditing, as well as being able to do DDC crawls on their NAS. As a company, we now have a customer base that exceeds 10,000 companies, privately held, but backed by a private equity investor. It's called UpData, based out of Washington, D.C. We've been growing roughly about 35 to 38% consecutively for the last 5 years, and we should do over 50 million this year in total revenue. So the company's doing well. Our financial position is very good, and we're getting a lot of traction in the market. So we've now evolved over the last several years to really broaden and create depth to our auditing solution. And the things that we pride ourselves upon are very simple. I think you just mentioned it, Don, is ease of use, ease of deployment. It's non-intrusive. We try to bundle as much into the individual solution sets as possible. So a perfect example is, within our AD GPO solution, you get object restore, you get IUT and password expiration notification, you get GPO changes, visibility, you get interactive search, you get risk assessment, you get behavioral analysis, and that's all part of one module. And then at the file share side, we support most flavors. We do Windows file shares, we do NetApp, we do EMC, and now we've just added Nutanix as one of our strategic partners going forward. And we've also added a data discovery, classification, and remediation solution through an acquisition that we made at the latter half of last year. And it's a very unique solution in that it does things that most of the other guys don't do, like things like compound search. We do a very, very flexible taxonomy that allows you to go in and modify it without having to, bring in consultants. So as you can see here from the slide, we've won multiple industry awards. We've been selected by both Inc. and Deloitte for the last 7 years as one of the fastest growing privately held software companies in the world. And from the customer base, anybody that's regulatory compliance driven, could be public sector, private sector, we're worldwide. So we have a pretty good presence around the world. So, we think that the whole market today is moving towards what we call DCAP. It's data-centric audit protection. That includes all of the traditional auditing that we do very well. It also includes data discovery, classification. It includes remediation, tagging, things of that nature. And I think that you guys will probably see that, over time, you're going to have to pay attention to the data as well as knowing who did what, when, and where. And I think we're doing a very nice job of bringing that to the mid-market and to the enterprise in an affordable and easy to deploy with a lower total cost of ownership. So what is it that we do? Well, we kind of refer to ourselves today as a data security platform. being able to accurately go out and not only identify where your sensitive data is, being able to tell you what should be construed as classified, then take action. But at the same time, integrating that into our auditing so that you have the best of all worlds. So you're able to see not only where the data resides, what is construed as sensitive, but also who's accessing it. What are they doing to it? If they have permissions, should they have permissions? Are those permissions active? Are they inactive? If they're stale, get them out. It's a bad practice. So we're trying to give you as much flexibility and reduce your exposure in being able to identify and detect aberrant behavior and potential policy violations and suspicious behavior. So everything that we do is kind of based on this this whole NIST standard, right? It's the ability to identify. You want to be able to protect. You want to be able to detect who's accessing the data, respond to it. How can I make informed decisions in very, very short periods of time, and then being able to recover should something take place. So from a conceptual standpoint, why we're different than StealthBits is StealthBits kind of came in through, they started their life as a kind of a network systems monitoring tool. So they collect a lot of data, bring it into a database, and then disperse it. We started off as I said, as an auditing component. They acquired their auditing solution. It was actually a former Novell solution, which they then transformed into an Active Directory solution, where we've built ours from scratch. So we've had kind of control of this solution over a very long period of time. So we look at things like raw event data, event correlation. We do configuration snapshots so you can see before and after values. We also do snapshot comparisons, screen captures, syslog, and we do this and along with data discovery. We can provide you with very, very defined risk assessment, alerts on threat patterns, and all the things that I think you want, but without having to pay the hefty price and having to manage and deploy agents, which, as you probably have already experienced, can be very time-consuming and costly. So why us? It's strictly fast time to value, very high precision in the type of data that we access, who did what, when, and where, making it very simple, but also integrating to other solutions. So ITSM or something like ServiceNow, or if you want to do integration into a variety of different SIMs. I think I saw that you guys are doing something with Alien Vault. That might be or whatever your SIM is. We provide integration to a very broad range of SIMs. We actually think what we do for a SIM is make it smarter. So we're trying to leverage not only what we do well, but also making sure that we're giving you leverage on your existing investment. It's a non-intrusive architecture, and that's across the entire platform. The only thing that we even use from an agent perspective is in our video playback and record. We use a compression service depending upon how big your environment is to be able to obviously minimize the amount of traffic that we're sending through the pipe. But again, that's something that we can explore with you. But in the most part, it's a non-intrusive solution. So it's very broad and deep coverage, a very, very broad ecosystem of integrations, and we can share that with you. And then obviously our support is one of the best in the industry, which is why we've had the success that we've had. So we cover a very broad range of products. I know that Hassan, I heard your initial call with Christian, and we do Active Directory group policy. We do Windows file shares, Windows Server, network devices, and we've just added in our newest release, we've added things like Palo Alto and several others, Sophos. We do Azure, 365 in the cloud, Exchange on-prem. We also can do NetApp, now Nutanix, and we have a very broad range of devices that we can crawl from a DDC perspective, but also anything that's Samba-based, we can go out and identify and bring in information. So are there any questions about kind of why us versus your other guys? I mean, not to get into the whole comparison to StealthBits, but I can assure you they stole top of my 5 top guys in the West Coast. That's their entire operation. And they're just not on my Christmas card list this year.
That's funny.
Other than that, I love them. I really love them. I really do.
But too funny. No, I think the biggest thing for us, I mean, obviously it's great to kind of see that overview and see the history and see the capability. Automation is big on our radar as well, because, one of the promises of the other product was that we could automate a lot of the functions that we do as IT today, so that when they have people, transfer departments, et cetera, that a lot of the revoking of access and all that kind of fun stuff can be done, by the individual department owners. So kind of touch on that if you would as well.
Yeah, I think automation is a big thing. I think one of the major returns on investment for us is that once we've set this up properly through subscription, so all of your reports can be subscribed on set dates and put into a calendar, and then once you set that up, you don't have to touch it. What most people like to do with our solution, and Adam will show you this, not only do we provide subscriptions, we do interactive search, which can allow you to create custom reports on the fly. But the other thing that you can do is, for instance, from an auditing perspective, you can set this up, and we follow, obviously, NERCA, we follow NIST, and we follow all of the major regulatory compliances. You can push this stuff into a folder on set dates or designate it to the appropriate people as part of your change management process. And you can allow them to get these reports. And then once you set that up, as opposed to running around with your hair on fire, you can then spend time starting to look at various things that are happening in the environment. So the automation is the delivery of where you get the ROI. So it improves your productivity. Once you've done it, you've set it up, then you can start going in and tweaking and dialing on things that you want to do, whether it's alerting, reporting. We have roles-based access so that you can limit who gets to see what, when, and where. The reporting, I think you're going to find to be very, very simple and easy to use. And again, it's very, very automated. And I think that's one of the reasons why people really like our technology. And because we try to create this single point, single pane of glass, once you've set it up, then you can. There's not a whole bunch for the people that need to look at that reporting to do, because they'll get it automatically delivered to their mailboxes in a timely fashion in whatever format you want to see it.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you.
All right, so Adam, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And let me grab the presenter role. Can Hassan and everyone else, can you guys see my screen okay? It says Netwrix Auditor 9.7 top left.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yeah, if any of you have any questions for me at any point, please feel free to interrupt. Please don't worry about being polite or something. I'm more than happy to address whatever you'd like right away. If there are specific use cases that you'd like me to address, happy to as well. But I think maybe a good approach is kind of keep it high level, show you a lot of how our software works. But again, whatever's going to be most useful for you guys, I'm happy to cover. That said, just diving into this, this is the Netwrix Auditor client. Know that this can be installed directly to your workstations, and we fully support role-based access control. You decide which users can do everything, which can only view audit data, and you can also get very granular. Say you created a monitoring plan for just a couple of particular folders, you could say that a user only has access to view audit data related to those 2 folders and nothing else. You certainly don't have to get that granular, but the options are there if it makes sense for you. When you install, you get everything. Just what you don't license and configure simply lies dormant. And it will look more like this. Just in my lab, I've configured at least one of every system that we monitor for demo purposes, because I've got to be able to show everything at times. But once you essentially tell Netwrix Auditor where you want it to collect audit data, get that configured, audit data starts coming in. You have a lot of different options for interacting with that audit data, one of them being our pre-built reports. A lot of pre-built reports that are all there out of the box. They're pretty, they're convenient, cover a lot of different scenarios. Just dive it into Active Directory. It's at the top because it starts with A. If you're looking for a particular report, it's a searchable interface. Looking for a password resets report, just type pass anywhere that appears in the string. That'll pop right up. But bringing up first a broad all AD changes report, just so I can show you what these are like. As you'll see, we are giving you that clear, concise who, what, where, and when information regarding changes in this case to AD objects and settings, but it is a common look and feel between all of our applications. So what we do on the back end to pull audit data from AD domain controllers or Azure AD or SQL servers, it may look very different, but we want to present that in as similar a way as possible because it makes it easy to holistically view audit data across all these different critical systems all at the same time. We color code changes. Here, green for something added, yellow modified, red removed, just to help draw your eye to what's most relevant to you. We'll give before and after values when settings or attributes have changed. Reading this top line, you can see this user modified this security group at this time. This domain controller received the change. The change was performed from this workstation. and then we'll give you the details. In this case, a couple of users were added to this group. With all of our reports, get lots of export options, sort options, wildcard filtering options. Maybe you only want to see changes made within a particular container, for instance, so just type part of the path that's unique, surround with wildcards. We're now only showing you changes made within this particular organizational unit. Speaking of automation, it is also very easy to set up automatic subscription delivery of any of our reports. So common example I'll use, say a compliance officer, security officer, somebody wants to see a weekly report of any accounts that are disabled. So they can verify that anyone that left, their account was disabled promptly. Common compliance control and good all-around security idea. You don't want accounts sitting out there for people that have left, typically. And it's good to have somebody verifying this is happening, because sometimes HR fails to get the message to IT that somebody left, or whoever got that message, something promptly caught on fire and they got distracted. So having somebody come back around, making sure it's all happening, that's what security team's all about. Well, at least a good part. Here you hit subscribe, you get a very simple configuration wizard. Name the subscription whatever you want. By default, nicely, we won't send a blank report. So if someone gets an email, they know there's actually something relevant to look at. You pick your format. You can send to one or more email recipients for doing dual review, or upload to a folder. A lot of our customers, if they know auditors are going to want to see certain reports, they will just have the reports amassing there ready to go for them when said auditor shows up. You pick your frequency. A lot of different options here for daily or less often delivery. We'll get into alerting in a bit if you want it quicker. And then you customize the output. In this case, I only care about disabled accounts, maybe within a particular OU. Hit add, and your recipients will have that report in their mailbox or a folder you indicate every morning that you specify. Just cuts down on the tedium if there are indeed reports you need to regularly review or send out. So plenty of other things to cover, even on the AD side. I just initially wanted to pause, see if any of you had any questions, as I use this every day, so it's super intuitive to me. But yeah, fire away.
Yeah, I would like to know, let's say we have users that didn't log in for 6 months and we wanted to disable them. Does this tool will function for any action, like after audit action?
So we do have a tool specifically for that use case, the inactive user tracking tool that's included with the AD license. Like Jim was talking about, we give you a lot, all with the same license. And here, you can just get reporting or take automatic action against those accounts that have been inactive for X amount of days. It's very intelligent in the way it works. It's not just using the domain-wide attribute that's only updated every 9 to 14 days. It's actually pinging each DC individually to get the, to the second updated, is this user actually inactive, to the point that if we can't reach one of the DCs, we won't take any action just as a safety mechanism, because we want to know that this user is actually inactive. And here you can set a random password, disable, move, even delete in a cascading order based on however many days you specify. You can do different settings for different OUs, like have inactive computer accounts moved one place and inactive user accounts moved elsewhere. So yeah, that use case, absolutely. We've got this resource kit tool, part of Netwrix Auditor for Active Directory.
Okay. The other quick question is about Azure infrastructure. You have Azure AD features only, but if we have SQL Server or SharePoint Server in Azure, can it be able to do the like regular functions like on-prem?
As long as we can reach it, yes. We don't care where it's hosted. Specifically, we monitor changes made through Azure AD, but our virtual appliance is even available in the Azure Marketplace. You can spin it up there and reach back to your on-premise stuff, or vice versa. We don't care where it's hosted. So yeah, if you've got a SharePoint server or a SQL server spun up in Azure, as long as we can get to it, yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Hi, this is Eric. I arrived late. I don't know if this was discussed in the first 15 minutes or so, but for an auditor or a non-techie person to view the reports, is there a web interface they can review the reports at, or do we have to install a FAT client on everyone's machine who needs to look at the reports?
So, though we definitely recommend using the client because it's smooth and you get more functionality. Some things we haven't gone into yet, like our search interface, and you can configure things and cool things in here that you would need the client for. That said, we are using SSRS. So if you've as long as you grant access or have access delegated for all of the pre-built reports, like the couple that I've shown so far, all of this, you're going to get the exact same interface in here, just case in point. So if you just need to grant access to certain reports, and you can actually, with SSRS, get very granular with the permissions here as well if you want to grant them access to only certain reports. But yes, you can do that through a browser, obviously.
Through the browser, does it require any plugins like Java, Flash, or Silverlight?
For SSRS, not that I remember installing or am aware of. So I don't think so. With that, almost positive it's not. This predates Silverlight, I think. The base technology, definitely not Java. No, I don't think so. I apologize if that's not accurate, but I'm not aware of anything. I've never had to install anything that I remember.
Okay.
But yeah, great questions. Any other questions at the moment?
Just Adam, I want to make sure I understand. The product itself, the Netwrix product, it runs, that's something we install on-prem, right? That's not that we install a client and then you guys interrogate the environment, correct?
Correct. Or again, you can spin it up in Azure, but you're going to be hosting it somewhere.
Yeah, right.
We don't want
Yeah.
Then we have to be NERC compliant and everything else compliant and everything. So no,
that's right.
We don't have access to your data. It's yours. We certainly help you, configure it, support it as needed, secure it, etc. But you'll be hosting it.
Oh, good. Okay, good answer. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Marvin, hey, it's Don. I apologize. Stan kept us a little late also, so I ran in and Eric beat me to it. So if you asked this, thanks. But did you ask my main use case about users being able to check their own accounts and groups?
Yeah, I think that's what Eric just asked, if I'm not mistaken, and the answer is yes.
Is that what you just asked? I didn't think that's what you
Mine
asked.
was about other ways to get to it.
I thought you were asking if the manager
so my use case, no, I don't I don't mean to be flippant. I don't care about any other use case. I want my use case. My use case is that the tool be able to automatically send an owner of a security group or whatever it may be an email and say every 6 months or whatever, and say, please vet these users and ensure that these users are meant to be in this group and have access to whatever this group is. And it can be either just a notification or it can be an interactive kind of process flow, whatever it may be. But that's the number one thing I need, and something we have not been able to do with the tools we have on hand today.
Gotcha. And maybe this doesn't get you all the way there, but just from what I'm hearing initially, and well, that's a very small group that I have, but small lab environment. But yeah, if you wanted to automate, hey, send me send the members of the accounting group to the head of finance, or a CFO, or probably not that high up, but somebody. And yeah, that'd be very easy to do. You just subscribe, you got the report, you customize the output, so it's just the specific group that you want, and you set your schedule very easily just to deliver on the first day of, I don't know, January and July or something. And that would be for every 6 months, and save, and it would automatically send that out to them. It's not going to be a click here response back, but the notification will definitely go out asking them to vet that. And yeah, so at least the information can definitely be automated to go out. Does that address what you were asking about?
That gets us 60% of the way there. At least we have something that says we've notified the people who own, like you said, the accounting folks to the finance owner, whoever it may be. An application uses a security group, we send it to that application owner, so that they can reply and say, no, I need to remove so and so or whatever, and we can manually handle that. At least that gets us doing something where we're not doing as well as we need to today. So that works. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And if a relevant or similar kind of case where we can help maybe even more is like on the file share side of things, where permissions get a little more complicated, or especially if you're running on-premise SharePoint, where permissions can come from like 5 different places, but we're aggregating that all together and showing here's how they have access and here's where it was derived from, which I can bring that up. But here, this is a regular, traditional file server kind of report. We will by default expand the groups. So if you wanted to review, here's everybody with access to this folder, can you please review this? The default run of this even will show any users that may have direct access, and instead of just showing the group permissions, and then I got to go look up who's in that group, it'll show all the users that have implicitly derived access to the folder via that group membership. So you can really see, who has access much more easily. And of course, subscribe to it, automate the delivery, just like the others. Yeah, great question. Any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, Adam, one quick question. So is there anything in the product that will show where within your file structure, SharePoint, et cetera, where any sensitive data could be located, or any, let's say, even what's the right word here, any credit card information or social security numbers or any of that kind of stuff would be stored?
Absolutely. And Jim was starting to talk about some of this. We recently acquired a company called Concept Searching, and we are able to now offer you, and even before that, we partnered with them for a year in what I like to think of as an extended try before you buy. But they're not going anywhere now, and it's great. It's been a great partnership, and now, they're a sister company. And with this, it's an extremely intelligent data discovery and classification solution. And why I put it up against anything out there in terms of accuracy is because it was designed to do so much more. These guys are in the enterprise content management space. They deal with very complex things like improving enterprise search, lifecycle management, doing migrations. I've got 10 terabytes of data I want to move to the cloud, but I got to pay per gig. And what if 8 terabytes of it can be archived and we're not really using it? They deal with all that. So because of that, they have to have more sophistication. And I can't tell you how much business we get. People coming to us saying, I've got this data discovery and classification, or DDC for short, solution, but a third to a half of everything it finds are false positives. It doesn't really have a good way of dealing with those false positives. And then if I do want to make some kind of a rule change, I'm paying a consultant a couple $1,000s. So what we're able to offer you, one of the ways that it's better is the breadth of coverage that we have. One of the slides Jim showed discuss this as well, and there's more than just as on here, but beyond being able to find like credit card data or other sensitive data within traditional file share, SharePoint Online, we can also classify your emails, Exchange Online, Google mails as well, different document management systems, your structured data. You want to classify data in SQL, Oracle, MySQL, no problem, we can do all that. Once you point it at different sources, it's a 3-step process where we will extract the text from these files, documents, pages, whatever the data source is, emails. We will index it, another big differentiator for us against a lot of different systems. And then we will classify it based on different rule sets. We give you a lot of default ones out of the box. All these are there right away. We don't charge you for any of these. Whether it is, GLBA will cover some, kind of PCI card data as well as some PII. So I'll just focus on this for the moment. But you can absolutely create your own. And also it's a white box solution. We tell you everything that we're doing. You see, when we're looking for MasterCards, you can see, and we've got good documentation to help you interpret regexes if anybody needs help with that. But this is saying like a MasterCard has to start with a 5 and other criteria. We also do exclusions. The Loon algorithm is what allows most websites where if you accidentally type your credit card one number wrong, it'll normally, unless you're lucky or unlucky, it'll immediately kick back. That's not a valid credit card number because it's got to add up a certain way. But with this, and just another thing that's easy for me to speak to because I'm well, I have one of these social security numbers, so I kind of know how they work. Again, you want to eliminate some obvious false positives. It's more than just 3-2-4 that we're looking for. In this case, it needs to start with 0 through 6, or if it starts with a 7, then the second character has to be 0 through 6, or if the second is also a 7, then the third has to be 0 through 2, and there's no social security numbers that start with 9, so we want to eliminate those obvious false positives. But also it's easy to do exclusions if need be. I was working with somebody, I just repeated this exclusion in my lab. They dealt with contract numbers from a financial institution that were 3-2-4 numbers. And it was, I mean, straight up legitimate social security numbers for somebody living or dead. Why you would, make your contract numbers that format, I don't know. But generally in documents, contract NO period was right in front of these numbers. So we just said, well, just exclude that. If you see that in front of it, don't worry about it. It's probably a false positive. Anyway, but even if we get a good hit, exclusions aside, it's only going to give 40 of a necessary 50 points by default before we say this document has sensitive data, specifically a social security number in it. We want to see something else, SSN, SSID, some kind of supplementary evidence in here, or some form of social security where we support stemming, so we get the root of words. You don't have to put in every single conjugated form or plural variety of a word. We'll get the root. It's also language agnostic. So if it's in English, Spanish, French, or Japanese, or 70 other languages we support, we're still going to grab that. And just the flexibility you have on clues. You can even do phonetic clues if you're worried about spelling errors. These are like sounds like kind of clues. And of course, very accurate clues against all kinds of different metadata we can pick up on. And then once we start getting results for MasterCard numbers or something, we allow you to start browsing through those results and adding things to your positive working set for things that appear to be good hits, and your negative working set for possible false positives. With any of these, we show you exactly why a score is being calculated, what we found within these files. We also allow you to see exactly what is being found if you go into the information for any of your files, and you can see exactly the card numbers that are being picked up. So if you want to know, if it's a one-page document, you can probably use your eyes. If it's a 1,000-page PDF, you probably want to know what I need to search for, and then find that string, Control F, search through it. You can see exactly where it is within that document. And then with this information, you can start tweaking things, reducing the weight of clues if they're causing false positives, or create some exclusions or negative clues, increase the weight of others if you're getting some near misses. Because we'll show you the fuzzy matches. If it's classified, sure, you can see it, but even if it's within an 80% match, some things where my contract numbers might show up this way, where I get a possible social security number, but nothing else denoting SSN, SSID, something like that. And we also, as Jim was starting to mention, or mentioned a bit, compound term processing is a huge differentiator for us. It allows us to do a few things. One of the big strengths of it, why we get so much fewer false positives, is an example we like to use is triple heart bypass. Phrases mean something to us. To a lot of software out there, if you make a clue for triple heart bypass, you're going to get a ton of false positives related to baseball, relationship advice, and traffic information, or otherwise traffic routing and such. But we know that those have to be together to mean something. And with that knowledge, this software is smart enough to not only, this is not just tell us what you want us to find and we'll go find it, go fetch. We can tell you how you use your data. So if you start a really interesting exercise, create a simple rule set for just everywhere that some phrase, some term, some regex, account number format appears, and we can suggest clues. We'll look through those documents and say, hey, so we're seeing these terms appear frequently within those documents, whether they're just single words or compound terms. Maybe you want to search for these as well. Maybe these are sensitive and you want to classify those. So not only does the accuracy go way up, but it allows us a lot of interesting analysis capabilities to help you. Also, as mentioned, it's indexed. So if you ever start dealing with, it started with GDPR, But the California Consumer Privacy Act is going into effect in January. North Carolina is considering similar legislation. This kind of thing has a way of spreading where you have this, I don't know if you've heard about this, the right to be forgotten or right to be erased, where somebody can call an organization and say, hey, I'm not a customer of yours anymore, so you don't have a right to my personal information, so I need you to delete it all from your network. Thank you. And that's a really difficult question for a lot of organizations to answer. But when you've already got all your information across your emails, file servers, SharePoint, whatever, indexed, it's really easy because you just search for somebody's name or account number or whatever, and then whether it's in SQL or emails or little text files or PDF or Office docs with or without embedded images or straight up images because we support OCR, we're going to be able to tell you everywhere that string appears. Other advantage of having that index is if you need to create a new rule set, a new clue, you don't have to recrawl everything. You've already got everything indexed that's available there. It makes this kind of process very simple. Once it is indexed and classified, that information then starts coming back into the Netwrix Auditor client, where we're able to help you. Because here, this is where Netwrix long-time strength is. Who's accessing, who's changing, who has access to this and that. We can help you to answer all kinds of interesting questions. One customer I was working with, they had a very interesting, to me, use case where it was a healthcare provider, and they had several folders where they knew there was all kinds of, electronic medical records, patient information, things like that. And they didn't care about classifying them at all. And at first I was like, well, why not? And they said, well, we know those folders have all kinds of stuff in them. I don't care about that. What I need to know is if somebody creates a file with like a health record in my public shares, because I need to know who to fire or who to discipline on this, because despite our best efforts, we cannot convince people or completely stop people from saving these sensitive files in directories that are not locked down. So here I can answer that question for you very easily. In that public share, what files do I have with different categories of sensitive information? Whether you're using defaults like I have loaded, or you can create your own rule sets. We've got brilliant consultants. We'd love to sell you consulting services, building out these rule sets. If you want help, it's absolutely available, but you don't have to with our solution. You can do this all yourself. Again, white box, not a black box solution. Other things, kind of the opposite scenario, where we'll tell you if the everyone group has access to different folders that contain sensitive data, or authenticated users group, because again, also bad, who is accessing those files, or who created or modified or deleted that file. So if there's concern that somebody took data with them, or an account was compromised, you need to know what your exposure is. You don't have to sift through everything that account was used to access. You can just see what did it access containing different categories of sensitive data. So yes, that was a long yes, but we do have something that will search for sensitive data. But do you have any specific questions on that? I'm just trying to keep it high level.
No, I don't. I mean, I think based on what you've shown, that product certainly has the capability to find that type of information, which is, obviously helpful for us. And I do, Adam, I've got to drop right at 3 p.m. Eastern. And the only other question I would have, and then, certainly Don and Hassan and Eric, but, how difficult is it to actually get the product implemented, set up, and operational? And I asked that question because, it's critical to us that we have something that we're able to actually use in fairly short order.
Absolutely. So one quick thing, and that's a great question, but one real quick before I answer that, I didn't want to forget. One last thing on the DDC point, because we were talking about automation and such earlier, we do have a remediation component where you can automatically, if you find this file with credit card information, make it read only, or make it so only a couple of particular users can access it, or actually quarantine it, move it into another folder. You can redact the information in it, send an email alert, and it works within seconds, all without an agent. We don't have to install anything, unlike your file servers. So yes, we have the remediation there. to answer your question on deployment, for tweaking it, yes, there's going to be occasionally, like if you're a Citrix environment, every time somebody logs in to a Citrix server, there's 3 attributes that get changed in AD. Normally, people like to just add those real quick to an exclusion file because they don't need to see that every time. But in terms of just the base install, to make it easy, we've got a virtual appliance. It's great for at least starting with, and a lot of people will use it in production. You can spin it up in Azure or an on-prem if you've got like Hyper-V or VMware. And normally, if somebody has that booted up, joined to the domain, not doing anything with the Netwrix setup, but there's a home for SQL and the server's ready to go, within an hour and a half, I normally have auditing going for AD, group policy, logon activity, and a couple of file shares. If you wanted to do classification on it, that's probably another hour. Maybe hour and a half, and there's some setup you got to do in terms of have a couple of servers or at least one other server ready to go, but we're talking hours, not weeks or months, to get this set up. Tweaking it some, there's going to be some things, maybe tweaking some of the rule sets. Turns out I don't need to know if I have Australian national IDs in my environment and I'm getting some weird false positives. Just delete that clue. It can take a little bit of time to get totally settled on it, but this is not like somebody's on site for a week just to do or a month, trying to get things configured initially. We try to make it as easy to deploy as possible. Data discovery and classification aside, it's just a single server. We just that you can put it all on, or have SQL elsewhere in the network, or you can store our archive files elsewhere if you want. Just give me one of your admins in an hour, and I can get a lot done. If that fully answers your question, or any other specifics, like in terms of architecture?
No, I think that answers it for me. I'm not sure about Eric or Hassan.
Marvin, just to let you know, it took me like less than 2 hours to install and the trial version, and start something going on. I didn't choose any other stuff except just a file server, but the rest of the stuff is very simple. But if we have a customization or some use cases that Dawn was asking, like we wanted to send an email to the resource owner that these are the people who have access. Do you want them to keep access, or kind of like an internal audit? Those stuff probably could take time, but we need to make sure that these are part of the installation at the beginning.
And speaking of installation, sorry. I was just going to say, we do have Jumpstart services. Like, you can absolutely install it on your own. However, especially if you're doing data discovery and classification, we recommend that you use those Jumpstart services. And that's kind of our boutique. We come alongside you, make sure you're happy with everything, getting it installed. It includes some training with it. It's a great option. And again, you don't have to go with it, but I'd recommend it. It can even further increase that time to value and getting everything deployed right.
How does your support structure look like? Like, what are the support you provide? Like, let's say we deploy and we have some issues, not just tweaking. We have some issues with servers, or some auditing features, or some bad features, and like something we need help with. How, like, some support is only break fix only. What is your module for support?
So with us, you get unlimited tickets, and if you have how-to questions, how do I do this, how do I configure that, that's all included. If it's, I want to build a custom rule set, or things like that, that might get into professional services, like an additional expense category. But in terms of how do I do this, I'm getting this error, of course, the break fix part, that's all completely covered. We have a great US-based support team in Columbus, Ohio. That's our other big office, other than the California office where Jim and Christian are. And also a team in Europe to support EMEA. And I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 24/5, or at least that's one of the tiers we offer. I think there's still a couple of options, but I think John knows that a little better, if you don't mind.
Yep. No, you got it right.
Cool. I'm proud of myself. So, but yeah, does that fully answer your question? Or maybe I didn't
Guys, one of the things that I want to throw out there, I mean, just from a familiarity, on our website, we have a section that is really kind of it's kind of a training component where you can go in and click into, there's probably about 11 categories. How do I set up a monitoring plan? How do I create alerts? How do I do custom reports and interactive search, right? And if you go into this Visibility Academy that he's showing you right now, you've got videos that are playing there, right, where you can actually go in, snapshot it, go take a look at the video, look at the question. We also use a knowledge base that we can share with you. I think you're going to find that our support really goes out of their way to try to make you successful. And, one of the things that our VP of Marketing was noticing, because we were talking about your initial discussion, Hassan, with Christian, is, hey, we know that you guys have visibility to all the utility companies. I can assure you, you're going to get a lot of TLC here. Yeah.
That's great. So I don't have any other questions. If Don, Eric have any other question.
Is there a way for someone who gets reports to act on the reports without having the fat clients as a secondary function after they get the report?
I guess, what do you mean by act by or act on?
So
sorry.
A manager who works in legal looks at a list of people who's in a legal security group, and there's someone who shouldn't be there. Can that person who doesn't have normal AD access have the ability to remove that person without a help desk ticket, or do they have to go through IT to have them removed from that Active Directory group?
Not within our software. We really are focused on empowering human decision makers and making this a great visibility tool, and that's our core competency. We don't pretend to be a management tool for that kind of functionality. I will half jokingly, but it's kind of true. Our logo is a magnifying glass, not a hammer, for a reason. So yes, we can absolutely automate getting that information to you, but in terms of, hey, that guy shouldn't be in that group, he's still got to, use some native traditional tool, help desk, can you pull this guy from this group or send that email so that gets done.
Okay.
What do you guys use as an ITSM solution? Do you have anything that you use today for help desk?
We do. We leverage a product for our internal support ticketing and, well, for external ticketing as well. It's a BMC product called Footprints.
Yeah. Well, we're not integrated today with BMC, but we do have integrations to ServiceNow where we actually can create a ticket.
Okay.
And it automatically creates a ticket in ServiceNow. We wanted to work with the BMC guys, but they were very difficult. They didn't want to play. So you might have experienced this. But there's things that we do already, like for instance, within ServiceNow, and from an MSP perspective, we're adding ConnectWise integration, doing something very, very similar. But, I mean, we do have automation in certain areas. And, oh, by the way, a lot of this stuff that is being shown to you, this is all stuff that we build as kind of cursory integrations through our RESTful API, and then we put that into what we call our available add-ons or our web store. So, these are integrations to various SIM solutions. You can see Splunk, SolarWinds, a variety of different things here. So, and we continue to add that. Plus, we also, by the way, from regulatory compliance, I don't think we got into it, we're also starting to support a variety of network devices. So we've got, Cisco, we've got Palo Alto, we've got Sophos, we've added a whole bunch of different devices that tie directly into you having control within your regulatory compliance to be able to manage those devices for change. Yeah.
Is there a way to put free-form text into a weekly report or a monthly report that says, if you see a discrepancy in this report, please contact the help desk at this link?
You can customize the email templates. As another thing, do you guys happen to use Slack?
No.
Gotcha. And that's just another way we can do an automated response action where things will pop up in Slack workflow. There's a lot of cool things we can do with the API to integrate with systems that do have the automation. If this alert condition occurs, send to create ticket in ServiceNow, or send it to Slack workflow, and then from there you will have things, and when this comes in, automatically do this. So there are even ways, and that we're only improving on this, even in the release coming up next month, for like initiate this PowerShell script when this kind of thing occurs. So there are some automated response actions, absolutely, and then automatically creating tickets and things with the remove this particular user from this group based on this user's request. That's a little bit different, but yeah, like Jim was saying, the other point I wanted to it is neat talking to you guys, because you're one of the ones I frequently talk about. We've got good compliance. I don't know if you guys actually follow NERC yourselves internally, but the whether it's GDPR or the new CCPA or SOX, HIPAA, PCI, you mentioned credit card data. We've put a ton of research in here to show exactly how we can help in complying with various controls. We said, okay, for 6.3.1, might want to follow the identification and authentication process, these two sub-processes. How can we help? Well, we got all these pre-built reports or search queries you might want to use, or ways you can use some of those free add-ons on our website, or alerts you might want to set up, and ways you can use other tools like the inactive user tracking tool we looked at a little bit, or how data discovery and classification can help, finding those credit card numbers, and so on and so forth. So the short version, because I know we're up against the top of the hour here, not that I have a hard stop, but yeah, we've put a ton of research into exactly how we can help with different best practice frameworks and compliance requirements with different regulations, including you guys, or the standard that you set. Yeah, like I said, I guess at least Marvin needed to drop off, but I obviously don't have a hard stop. Any other questions or anything else I can help address for you guys?
I'm Adam. I am going to need to drop off, but really nice job. I mean, the product looks like it's got a lot of capabilities. So, I'm sure Don and Hassan and the rest of the team, will talk internally. So again, thank you so much to all of you guys for your time today. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, guys, we didn't even touch on everything. I mean, we didn't show risk assessment. We didn't get a chance to really spend a lot of time in the interactive search, which is really, really valuable. So there's a lot of stuff here, but obviously, hopefully we addressed at least your initial questions. If you want to do a subset follow-up to this, we can do that. Or if you actually want to have us work with you on doing something internally, we can do that as well. Yeah.
And real quick, just to kind of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to piggyback off what Jim was saying, as far as next steps, what do you guys want to have happen? And again, I know that you guys are probably super busy, so I don't want to take up more time than we need to, but do you guys want to have another call, or do you feel like that's necessary?
I was going to say, Hassan, let's see if me and Marvin can catch each other in the office, maybe call Eric, and we'll circle back internally and then figure that next step out.
Yes, and we probably will have another call because Jeff was missing, and the rest of the features like risk assessment and other stuff, maybe we wanted to look at as well. So
okay.
Let us talk through ourselves, and then I'll get back to you, Adam.
It was John, for sure. If we don't hear back from you guys by Monday, can I follow back up with you on Tuesday just to kind of circle back?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time here today, and more importantly, try not to be too busy the rest of the afternoon. But you guys will circle back. we'll circle back here very, very soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adam, John, and everybody. Appreciate all your help.
Thank you, guys.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
You're on this 3 o'clock. You should be on this as well.